Thousands march in Rome during the G20 summit calling for action against climate change and fair access to COVID-19 vaccines. Demonstrators waved flags and chanted "We Rise Up," an apparent warning against G20 leaders. They're demanding attending top officials make headway on tackling global warming. Protests follow calls by the UN Secretary General. Antonio Guterres has urged those attending the summit to show more ambition, take action, and overcome mistrust in order to advance climate goals. Climate change is among issues topping the G20 agenda. Joining us now from New Jersey is Ahmed Eltouny, co-chair of the Green Party. Hello, Ahmed. Pleasure to have you on Press TV. Your thoughts on the summit itself, the protests, and can these leaders do more? And if they can and they are not, why aren't they?
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here again. My thoughts are any summit that takes place regarding climate change that doesn't address capitalism and neoliberal economics, it can't be taken seriously at all. Because at the end of the day, as long as you can turn water into profit, trees into profit, oil and minerals into profit, you're going to have climate change. You're going to have climate catastrophe, and that's what's taking place right now. So the idea that 20 countries that are hoarding the majority of the world's wealth coming together to try to solve this problem, of course it's going to be laughable. And of course they can do a lot more. What they can do is they can change completely this economic system and put people, peace, and planet before profit. But none of them are saying that. They're talking about ideas that would have been sufficient in the 1980s, and they're trying to apply it now in 2021. So obviously they could do a lot more, but that would mean taking money out of the pockets of the wealthy, and none of them want to talk about that. For us in the Green Party, we believe in a Green New Deal that distributes equitably amongst the workers, that puts people and planet and peace above profit, and thinks more about the long-term sustainability as opposed to just constant unsustainable growth. And that's kind of what the problem is with having these countries present themselves in this way, because they're not saving anything. Perhaps they're saving face, but they're not saving the planet at all. It's just a show.
And also this, you mentioned the economics behind it. It also applies, unfortunately, to the COVID pandemic. We know there are African countries, Ahmed, and you very well know, that have not yet received a single dose, while some stronger countries are speaking about getting out a booster dose now to a lot of the elderly and sick. So my question to you, when we know that if we do not address the COVID pandemic, that ultimately, this is according to the WHO, the World Health Organization, there will be variants that ultimately will not be receptive to any of the vaccines that we currently have, and we'll be back at square one. Why are we letting greed annihilate basically the planet? Because even if the countries that feel like they're in the safe now will not be in the safe tomorrow. That applies to climate change, you very well know, and it also applies to the COVID pandemic, two heads of the same coin.
Yeah, and it applies to racism and privilege and a bunch of things. I mean, the reality is climate change and COVID are two things that are linked together. I mean, the reality is the same economic system that has caused the mining of caves, which caused bats to have to leave their natural habitat, the deforestation that came from the greed of like turning trees into profits that took away their natural shelter from predators. All these things put bats under stress, which caused the virus to spill over. And bats have over 60 different viruses that live within them, and bats are just one of many animals that can spill over viruses onto human beings. So this whole COVID pandemic is as a result of the neoliberal economics and capitalism of these countries that are now trying to combat that. And then to add insult to injury, you look at a continent like Africa, which at last I checked, I believe it was 5% of the entire continent had received the vaccination. And rather than put in a global effort to vaccinate every human being, because the reality is that's what it's going to take in order for us to reach a global herd immunity to prevent the mutations from occurring, they're looking at giving boosters over here and considering, here in the United States at least, considering starting to use these excess vaccines on children who aren't as vulnerable as some of the more vulnerable people in the world. And so like the entire thing just comes together in just a horrible management of these powerful, wealthy, white European and North American countries that care more about themselves, care more about their greed than the betterment of the planet.
Wow, powerful stuff. But thank you and stay safe. Ahmed Eltouny there joining us from New Jersey, co-chair of the Green Party.